Oh, at least 30 seconds. David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And the budget estimates debate is a great time to look at the policy difference between the two political parties that have just spoken. And I think that last speaker we can tell is a very negative approach to New Zealand, as an approach that really is something that Grant Robertson basically knows better than any other New Zealander. A failed academic that's made his life out of politics, it knows better about anybody else in New Zealand. Somebody that can decide where to build houses. Grant Robertson believes he's greater than God. He can work out where houses go. He can build them at a certain price. He can make everything happen at a certain price for a certain policy. And that is the Labour Party dream. And it is a dream of socialism gone wrong. The Labour Party are continually harking back to their socialist roots. Free housing, free university education, free government jobs if you work for a government department, no loans. It is all that socialist rhetoric that has gone and has been taken away from the rest of the world that has grown up and worked that it doesn't work and has actually moved on. And that's what this budget shows. It shows an open, progressive economy that delivers for New Zealanders. And I want to take a little moment to talk about immigration, because I know that this is something that the other parties are going to come to in their speeches, because whenever they talk about housing, they link it to migrants. And National Party is proud to welcome people to New Zealand. We are a country that is proud to have people come to this country and become part of New Zealand and build their life and their dream here. We are not a party like New Zealand First that is against migrants. We are not a party like the Green Party that doesn't want any people in New Zealand. And we're not a party like the Labour Party that's sold out for the theory of housing, and a once proud Labour Party. When I first came into politics, every event I went to, the Labour Party said, we're pro-migration, we're pro-immigrants. Now they don't say that. They hardly go to those events because they know they can't stand up in front of those groups and actually be honest with them and say, we're cutting immigration, because that's what the Labour Party stands for. That is their policy, that they want to cut immigration. And that is the true Labour Party that you're seeing come out now, and that's a Labour Party that's very quiet now. Not one defensive comment. Not one comment against it. And then they come back now because they've just been called to talk. And Mr Speaker, New Zealand has a choice of how we run this country. We can be an open, free country that takes our opportunity, or we can be closed and restrictive on our people and our future. And the world is going through quite interesting times. You're seeing what's happening in Britain, what's happening in North America. There's a mood, there's a political class that's talking about restrictions, about stopping people. Yes, it is a class, Ms King, a class based around those people like Bernie Sanders that are true Labour Party members. And that mood is a negative mood that's against progress and success. New Zealand has taken a different approach. New Zealand is in the heart of that Asian growth bubble that is basically the world for the next 150 years. And as part of that, the last thing we can do is have a restrictive approach. If New Zealand takes the Labour Greens New Zealand First approach, we will deny ourselves the opportunity that our geographical position has enabled us to take in the next 50 to 100 years. We cannot let that opportunity slip. I often talk to the public in Hamilton and ask them, what is the biggest thing in Hamilton? You know, what's our biggest strategic advantage? And we always look at it and we know that it's our location to Auckland. It is our proximity to Auckland. Just like Hamilton is to Auckland, New Zealand is to Asia. And just like Hamilton has taken advantage of that link with Auckland through the expressway, New Zealand needs to link with the Asian development and growth and actually take advantage of our opportunities in front of us. We do not need to stop people coming to this country. We do not need to say that we need to have population stilts across our major cities. We do not need to restrict our people and our future. What we need to do is embrace that opportunity. take that opportunity, and every time the people of Hamilton look north, they look through it with success and pride because they know it's helping them grow. And every time they look east, they look at the same way, and we look at that as the next stage of Hamilton growth is to look east. Just like New Zealand's next stage will be to look east towards South America and America as we grow. So you can relate Hamilton to New Zealand's position, and it is very much the same. But New Zealanders must take that opportunity, and we must not go into that politics of fear and dissolution that you're seeing around the world that pits people against each other just because of our race or our religion or where we were born. We must accept all New Zealanders and, more importantly, welcome new New Zealanders and let people have a future in this country and not go through the petty politics of fear that the opposition peddles through every election campaign, and we know they're going to do again this time. And Mr. Speaker, this budget is so important in providing that impetus. And I think New Zealand has got a perfect opportunity in the next few years to take advantage of that. And the one thing I fear is that we don't take advantage of that and our near neighbours do. And if New Zealand gets out of kilter with Australia in that regard, then have a look at the housing market. Instead of worrying about 30,000 people leaving New Zealand to go to Australia, as was the case 10 years ago under the Labor Party, there will be 50,000 people leave to go to Australia. Cities like Melbourne and Sydney are predicted to have populations of 9 million people each in the next 30 years. 9 million people. Auckland goes to 2.4 million people in that time. Auckland needs to grow and be stronger than that to be successful. We need a strong Auckland for a strong New Zealand, and a strong Auckland will come through population growth, and that population growth is imperative to our country taking its place in the future. And the Green Party may laugh, but the Green Party wants New Zealand just to be an island state and think that everything will be fine and that everything... Well, an island state in the sense of not having that strong economic basis. Oh, we're all an island state if you want to look at it that way, Mr Robinson, but Mr Robinson can be cute around the facts, but he can't actually understand any of the details when it comes to things. So, Mr Speaker, it's important that we follow the course that New Zealand has set itself on. And this is a course that gives us an amazing opportunity to be a very successful country. If we don't follow that choice and we don't follow that course, then we consign ourselves to what the New Zealand First, Labor Party and Green parties want. And that is not something New Zealanders want to see. Because we don't want to see... Oh, Mr Ron Mark here, he's laughing as well. Yeah, Mr Ron Mark. Mr Ron Mark that's never won a seat, never can win a seat, and has backpedalled into this parliament for his whole career on the coattails of one leader of his party. And he has never been able to convince the people of one electorate to vote for him. So it's big of you to come in here and tell us what to do, Mr Mark. But Mr Speaker, going back to that population change that is so important for Auckland as well. If we don't have that population growth, Auckland will not have the world-class university of the future. Auckland will not have the base of that economic growth that we need so that our young people stay in this country and want to be part of New Zealand. And Auckland's strength will mean that Hamilton and Tauranga are strong, and as that region grows, then the rest of New Zealand will prosper and succeed as well. And you're seeing that through the rest of New Zealand at this moment with a strong economic base in the north of North Island. So, Mr Speaker, New Zealand has a clear choice next year. Whether we take an open approach that this budget represents, that is aspirational for our people, that gives us opportunities and takes the opportunity we have in that new world order, or do we take the restrictive, negative approach, the Bernie Sanders of the world, the Don Trumps of the world, and the Lennons of the world that would actually want us not to take our chances, to consign ourselves to being a state that doesn't believe it needs to compete and doesn't need to actually offer the opportunities for all New Zealanders. And Mr Speaker, I see New Zealanders as deserving and needing those opportunities and not to have them taken away by a negative, restrictive Labor, Greens, New Zealand First opposition. Thank you, Mr Speaker.